in the studio.
Hello, Laura.
Stephen, let's start with these serious allegations being made against a Swiss bank.
Yeah, US Senate committee has said that the bank Credit Suisse had helped some 19,000 of its account holders to avoid paying American tax. The report, conducted after a 2-year investigation into the bank, says that staff used practices including flaunting visa rules and secret meetings as part of efforts to encourage clients to open accounts with them, many of which were not declared to US authorities. Now, some 10,000 of those American accounts were in fact held at a special office opened at Zurich Airport. Many of those hidden from the US authorities. Those are now being pursued against 14 different Swiss banks. Senators expecting to hear from Credit Suisse's CEO, among others, to respond to these allegations later today.
All right, let's take a look at the markets this morning.
Well, not much inspiration for the Asian markets from a fairly flat close on Wall Street. The Nikkei and the Shanghai Composite both trading in the red. Shanghai down again after that 2% fall that we saw yesterday. Continuing jitters over the Chinese property market, not helped by a falling value of the currency. The Hang Seng and the Kospi, the only bright spots there.
And there's a story that we've talked a lot about in recent months, but there are new doubts over the future of the virtual currency, and that's Bitcoin.
Yeah, this was after one of the biggest exchange sites used to buy and sell Bitcoin, went offline on Tuesday. Mt. Gox disappeared amid allegations that some $300 million worth of Bitcoins had gone missing. But since Bitcoin isn't regulated by any government or central bank authority, this latest crisis is casting doubt over the currency's future stability. Catherine Viette has the story.
It's the Wild West of currency, and now an apparent massive theft has shaken consumer confidence. But many still believe technologies like Bitcoin have a future.
Any currency is only as good as the trust that people put into it. And even though the technology of Bitcoin is excellent, I think the level of faith that people have in it, especially because of the volatility that we've seen in its value, that has to calm down a little before people start to say, hey, this is actually better than PayPal or better than Visa.
Some analysts say growing pains are to be expected with new technologies, and the collapse of the Mt. Gox exchange will weed out the bad actors.
Either the Bitcoin community will convince us that it's a one-off and a new form of maybe partially regulated exchange can solve these problems and take the good and get rid of the bad, or people will start losing faith.
Nearly everyone believed more oversight was in Bitcoin's future.
I think what we'll see from this is that governments will try and enforce some kind of regulation because, as we've discovered, there's around $350 million worth of Bitcoins have been stolen, so that's a lot of money to go missing.
Despite this recent crisis, trading is still strong, with one Bitcoin equivalent to $500.
Quick look now at some of the day's companies news for you and profits. At the aerospace giant, Airbus rose by 22% last year to almost 1.5 billion euros. Revenue also grew 5% on the back of record deliveries of new passenger jets. The company says it expects orders to remain higher than deliveries in the coming year after it took more than 1,600 orders for new planes in 2013. And the French construction and telecoms firm Bouygues has reported a net loss of 757 million euros for last year. That's due to a write-down of 1.4 billion on its stake in the engineering company Alstom. The news comes after reports that Bouygues may be interested in purchasing the rival mobile network SFR.
And finally, Stephen, a big mystery in the finance world has been resolved.
Yes, this is the mystery of the Goldman Sachs elevator gossip. Twitter account has been amusing people on Wall Street and elsewhere for more than 3 years at this stage. It was meant to contain overheard comments in the lifts at that Wall Street bank. Let's take a look at some of the examples of the sort of comments. One tweet did say, quoted supposedly someone saying, "I already know I'm going to hell, so at this point it's go big or go home." Another example saying you shouldn't retire until your money starts making more money than you made in your best year. This, of course, parody account was supposed to typify the worst of Wall Street. Goldman Sachs had been trying to find out who's behind it since it was launched back in 2001. To no avail, though. It was in fact a New York Times investigation that uncovered the man behind it had in fact never worked at Goldman Sachs. Sachs. His name's John Lefebvre. He worked for a different bank, Citigroup, on Wall Street. He said he started as a joke, but Goldman Sachs, quite magnanimously in their response to this discovery, said that they had lifted their official ban on talking in elevators as a result of the discovery.
All right, Stephen, thank you very much for that. That was Stephen Carroll with all of today's business news. And it's time now for our special series on the Giant Agriculture Fair.